welcome back. You got Katie and Kat here today to talk about another mindset, which is a classic, universal, can't get better than this, and that is going to be love. So we're going to be talking about why that's important, kind of learning how to incorporate that and be mindful of that throughout our day. So the symbol we use to represent that in our jewelry designs is the beautiful rose quartz, which if you were watching, you can't see the video, haven't had a chance to see that stone, but it's a gemstone that has kind of like this light pink color and has just been associated kind of like with that vibration. So do you want to go ahead and read a little bit more about the rose quartz stone?
Yeah, so the rose quartz, we have a little affirmation card that goes with all the jewelry. Rose quartz is a stone of unconditional love. Its gentle pink hue carries a soft energy, reminding you to allow vibrations of love to flow freely and without fear. Acting as a symbol of acceptance and tenderness, it can remind you of the importance of nurturing current relationships in a harmonious way. Oh, lots of good stuff with there, good reminders.
Do you want to know what's interesting? I think I told you this. So if I'm feeling ambitious, I'll try to find the link and leave it in the video show notes. But if not, sorry, just go Google it and find it on your own. Do you remember that, what did they call it? Oh, core values quiz that I had you take recently?
Yeah.
So where did I get? Oh, this like business kind of like consulting stuff I'm doing, they sent it to me. And I took it. From them. Yes, it was from them. And I took it and I was like, oh, this is so interesting. Like, I'm so curious as to what Katie's are. So basically it's this quiz that I took online, and you had like, God, how many do you think it was? Because I know I had you take it. It was like dozens.
Gosh. Yeah, like maybe 30.
That's what I'm thinking. It probably had like like 30 different core values.
Yeah.
And like some of them were stuff that I didn't even think of as like a core value. But love was one of them. And so you go through and you basically, you selected like the different ones. They were like, okay, give us your top 11. And then it kind of like, you battled it out like, okay, between like love and compassion or whatever, like which one is more important to you? And there was all different. There was like, I don't know, do you remember some of them? Like there was wealth, there was privacy, there was family,
accountability, trust.
Yeah. Is really really interesting, because a lot of those are, again, the mindsets that we have attached to our jewelry. But love was one of my main like core values, and I was not I was surprised that of the 11, actually I think I picked more, that you can pick more. I think I originally started with like 15 or something, because I was like, I mean, all of these are important to me, but then when you whittled it down, like love,
it's one of the top
was one of my top ones, and I was like, that's so crazy. So I don't know, I've like been reflecting on that, but what is it, do you think, about love that people like gravitate to, or even like someone like me I'm like, oh my God, that's like a core value of mine?
I'm not surprised that it's one of yours.
Why? Tell me that. Like, why?
Well, just because you radiate love, like you're always loving on other people, and it's just something that comes very natural to you. I feel like. So
I thank you.
I'm just not surprised.
I mean, I don't know. I'm like, thank you. Yes. But it is funny though, because we think like sometimes in our world and our scope, like we just assume that everyone is thinking and moving the same. And so like, I know you took the quiz and love was not like one of your core values, which is again, totally fine.
Right.
But like, I just found that fascinating, that sometimes there's different like, and that's kind of like what makes the world go round, and that's okay. Like you don't have to have like the same core values. Like, can you imagine if the world did? Like, what a boring place.
Right. We all have the same 5 things that we care about, and nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Well, and I think love is kind of, I don't know, not difficult, but it kind of envelops all of them.
Yeah.
And so we say like, yeah, love is one, but my top one was trust.
Yeah.
And I think trust goes into love 100%. Like you can't, like that's part of loving someone, is trusting someone.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I mean, there are times where that's not the case, but that definitely goes hand in hand for me.
Yeah.
So I feel like love is right up there, even though it might not be my top 5 specific core values, but I feel like there's love in each of those.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It was a really cool quiz.
I know. I was actually thinking about like when we go to launch new products, which I'm like, we have so many. We have like hundreds of different products and designs and stuff right now. So I'm
Yeah.
like, no new products for at least a little while we're working on some other stuff. But I was like, oh, we should like look at those. And I'm like, are we missing? Like, I feel like we actually had a lot of them in our jewelry designs.
Yeah.
Love and different, but I'm like, oh, we should go back and like maybe we should make like a trust, something that represents trust that you can wear when you're trying to like focus that or harness that a little more, or kind of move through with that mindset in your day-to-day life.
It's a great tool. Well, I think that something that I've been focusing a lot on is with my healing journey, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I came across this account where she talks about it's all your mindset. I'm like, okay, well, that's perfect, because that's literally my job is helping other people develop their mindsets and focus on those. And I had listened to one of their podcasts this morning, and it was about love and self-love specifically.
Yes.
And it was like something that hit me really hard with that was you are already worthy of love. You are born worthy. You do not have to earn it. Yeah. And we're kind of conditioned to think like, oh, I have to earn this, or I have to do X, Y, Z in order to be loved or love myself or measure up to whatever standards you made for yourself. But that's not really the case. Yeah. And so you can love yourself no matter what. And there are things we can do to practice that. And sometimes it's harder for other people to naturally just, I love myself. And this is what I do to take care of myself. And I sometimes feel like, well, if I do too much self-care, if I'm putting too much into myself, is that selfish?
Yes, exactly.
Is that like taking away from something else? Yes. But so what do you do to balance that for yourself?
That's something that still, like, I think about, like, that's such, like, as you were talking, that's like almost where my mind went, because again, interesting that it's one of my core values, and I'm like, I had no idea. Right. But that's something I've always kind of joked about. And again, this is especially like with my like relationship with my husband, like so many of these things just get ample. Like you're just with this person, like they know you, they see it. It's like just a really like kind of like shines when you're in like that kind of relationship with a person. It can really like shine a magnifying glass on some of these things sometimes. But with like the love piece, that's something that I've always felt like, I was like, I love myself. Like I'm awesome. And I'm like, wait, does that make me like a narcissist or like conceited or what is this? But at the same time, like, it's like funny because I do, but then there are still like, the more I've been going to like counseling and therapy, I'm like, oh, I have a lot of like insecurities that I didn't even like realize existed. And I feel like that self-love piece, I'm like, I've always been like, I'm good at taking care of myself. Like if I need time, if I need space, if I need a trip, like I'm going to do it, you know? Yeah. And again, I think specifically for women, a lot of the times that doesn't always happen, but I'm still uncovering, like I still have a lot of that like conditioning of like the earning love, feeling enough, and feeling worthy, that I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize it. It's like I do. It's like there's moments where I'm like, yes, I'm awesome. I have so much like cool, good stuff happening for me. Me just being is amazing and enough. And then there's other times where I'm like, no, it's not, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a good point though. Like I talked to, like with the daughters I'm raising, I got an 11-year-old and a 5-year-old. And it's like this concept of you don't have to be good, you are good, like you are enough. You're just like trying to get them to see that and envelop that a little more. And I don't know, again, if it's the way society has kind of like built itself, or if it's just human nature, or if we as a collective could get better at that understanding. But it's so like ingrained in us, I think, like you said, of like you have to earn that love and be worthy of that love.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe just how we're raised, like you do something good, you get a reward. Or
it's such a weird, because even like as a parent, I'm like, I loved, and I've always tried to make my kids sure, like this is like, I love you unconditionally, I love you unconditionally no matter what. But there is this still, like when they do something, like if the older one hits the younger one, I'm like, I am disappointed in you.
It doesn't mean I don't love you.
I still love, like, but disappointment. And so it's just like, I'm like, I don't, again, like maybe I need to continue on my parenting journey, trying to get better at those pieces. And I'm like, that shouldn't be on the table. And again, now I'm using the word should. I'm like, I shouldn't be using the word should. It just is. It's fine. We're working on it. But I do feel like there is this, like with your, like kind of like these expectations in a way that we have of people, or the way we think they should show up in our lives. And there's even like, again, like today, like with this cancel culture kind of like concept, it's like, oh, or this, like, you're toxic, you're not good for my life, bye. Which again, I'm like, I think that's okay. Like, you do want to have people around you that support you, and like, but at the same time, isn't that message of like, oh, you're not what, like, I don't know, like, what do you, like, it's such a weird line with the unconditional love, but also like boundaries and healthy relationships, you know?
Right. Well, that is tricky because it's like, just because, at least for me, just because you're not necessarily in my circle doesn't mean that you can't be loved. It's just that you are not right for me right now.
Okay.
But that doesn't make you less worthy as a person or less loved as a person. I don't know. It's not taking away love. It's just not welcoming them into your circle or into your mind space, or I don't know. So there's like some self-protection kind of things, but you don't need to like go hate on somebody or go, you know, if somebody does something wrong that hurt you or whatever. I don't know. It's hard.
I know. And again, like, maybe this is because this is like a little core value. I'm like, but everyone needs to be loved. Like, I could like, and it is interesting to think though, and I'm like, maybe I've done this like almost subconsciously and haven't even realized it, but I can't think of like, I mean, I'm like, now that I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, well, there is kind of that, like, but I'm like, there's very few people that have kind of like come into my life that I've been like, no, which I know like people do that, again, like we're talking about, again, just healthy relationships and sometimes like some of that toxicity, but I'm like, maybe I've just kind of like naturally done that and not even realized, just been like, oh, like this is where I'm just stepping back a little because I don't feel as safe, or you know, different things for whatever reason.
Maybe that's like a way of love in and of itself. Like, it's a self-love because you're not allowing yourself to be, you know, hurt by somebody or in a situation that's uncomfortable. But it's maybe partly kind of like a way of love to them, because if you're not feeling safe with somebody, you're not going to be able to effectively show them love. So maybe that's doing them a little bit of a service, because if they were in your circle, you wouldn't be able to show that the way that you might show somebody that you have a better relationship with.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's been such a big, like, this self-love piece is such a big part of, I feel like, some of the therapy and counseling and stuff I've been doing, just like this concept of you like being okay with yourself and not needing other like influences or validation from other people to just have that like sense of like worthiness and acceptance of yourself. Like, there's this weird piece of me right now in my personality, and I'm like, what if I'm this and this and this? And then my therapist is like, so is that okay? Can we just say that that's okay? And that's just who you are, and we don't need to like fix it per se, you know? So yeah, but again, then we go back to that, but what about like self-improvement and growth? Like, where is that line between just like self-acceptance and then also like trying to improve and better ourselves? And I don't know. Interesting.
Are there any things that you're learning that helps you develop that self-love?
I think that's exactly where we're at. I'm like, so what do we do? He keeps talking about like meditation, and I'm like, okay, like trying to like get back to your true core kind of like self. I really think, like, again, we've talked about intuition with the amethyst stone before, but I feel like that's kind of like a part of it. And again, back to your core value of trust, like trusting yourself, that inner essence, like whatever it is, of just like accepting it, trusting it, loving on it. I think people talk about, been trying to do better at this, but just like the negative thought patterns, like just trying to recognize them. That's like the first step of like, oh, I'm talking negatively about myself right now. Like, I feel like that's a goal for me. It's not even like trying to fix it at this point. It's like, I think so many of us move through life not even realizing like how often, like, I mean, even just this morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate my wrinkles. I hate my wrinkles. Like, I need to do Botox. I've never done Botox. Like, cool if you have, cool if you haven't, like wherever you land on that argument. But it's just like such a silly little thing. I'm like, why? Who freaking cares? Oh, I think it's because we've been filming like a lot more video content, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate seeing myself on the screen all the time. It's fine. My mission's important, so I'm here for it. But like, just like I don't even think we realize there's so many times that we do that throughout the day. So I think I'm just trying to recognize and be like, oh, that's not a very nice thing to like be thinking right now.
Like, what if somebody else said that about someone? How would I react?
Oh, that's such
but
a
you're
good
saying
thought.
it to yourself, but it's fine because it's yourself. Like, it's not.
That's such a good thought. Yeah. What about you? Do you have any kind of like tips or tricks on like the self-love or things you've been thinking about?
Journaling is always my go-to.
Yes, that too. I know we've talked about this. I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do this.
And I share the journal prompts every week. That's part of
Yes.
my thing here at WonderLight.
Yeah.
And it seems so dumb sometimes because I'm like, yeah, you write it down, whatever. But when you're writing it down, like you're making that a reality. And this is you retraining your brain. Like you can physically change your brain. Like structurally, it changes as you are looking at thoughts that aren't right and rewriting that. Like that's a physical change. And that's why it's hard sometimes to realize what you're doing and think, oh, okay, I don't want to do that. And change it. But journaling, it's a way of being able to realize what's going on. So like one thing that I do, I have a journal that gives me like a couple questions. It has my gratitude stuff and it gives me a few other questions. And one of them every day is like, what are 3 things that you can do today that will just make today awesome? And finding those 3 things that will make me happy or just little things that I love. It kind of helps me realize who I am. And if I understand who I am and have a relationship with myself, then it's easier to love.
All right. We are so sorry about that. We don't know what happened to the camera. It just decided to stop working. Yeah. Which we don't love.
Yeah.
But
no love towards that.
I feel like we have enough good stuff here. We still want to go ahead and post this episode for you guys. So we'll try to find a decent little cutoff point where we're both not just like.
Right.
All right. I'll go ahead too, and I'll end us with our love affirmation. So it says, I radiate beauty, grace, and love. So be sure to stop by WonderLight Jewelry, pick up your rose quartz pieces if you'd like to kind of channel and harness a little bit more of that love mindset in your own life. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.